Dear distinguished speakers and participants, good afternoon to everyone joining us online today. I am Patrik Kovacs, Executive Board Member of Business at OECD, which is the official voice of businesses at the OECD. We are the recognized institutional business stakeholder to the OECD. Through us, national business and employers federations representing over 11 million companies, providing perspective and cutting-edge OECD policy debates that shape market-based economies and impact global governance. It is a real pleasure to open this conference today on this important topic that is ESG. I would like to first thank ALES, the European Lean Managers Society, for convening this timely discussion and for bringing together such a diverse and experienced group of practitioners and policymakers from across regions and sectors. At Business at OECD, we strongly value platforms like this, platforms that do not treat ESG as a theoretical concept, but as a management discipline and a governance challenge. The focus of today's conference, moving from ambition to execution, from commitments to measurable impact, is exactly where ESG global debate needs to be today. Let me start with a simple observation. Across OECD countries and beyond, ESG has clearly moved into the mainstream. Most large companies now have sustainability strategies, emission targets, social commitments, as well as governance frameworks in place. However, despite this progress, there remains a growing gap between three things: strategy and delivery, between reporting and real-world outcomes, and finally, between policy aspiration and operational realities. This is not due to the lack of goodwill, nor it is because companies or managers underestimate the importance of sustainability. This is why theme of today, and in particular the idea of a lean ESG street synergy, is so important. From the perspective of Business at OECD, let me highlight three reflections that I hope can frame the discussion of today. First, ESG must be anchored in value creation, not in compliance alone. Around the world, companies are navigating in an increasingly complex ESG landscape. New disclosure frameworks, taxonomies, due diligence requirements, and sector-specific standards. Most effective regulation is essential to drive accountability and comparability, but regulation alone does not create impact. At Business at OECD, we consistently hear from companies that the challenge is not whether to act on ESG, but how to do so in a way that strengthens competitiveness rather than underestimates it. Second, credibility depends on execution capabilities, not on ambition. We are living in a time of heightened scrutiny. Investors, regulators, employees, but also consumers are increasingly asking not just what companies promise, but how they deliver and whether outcomes are real. In this context, we see growing concern around implementation gaps, consistent data quality, and many others. The answer is not less ambition. It is stronger execution capacity. And also, from a policy perspective, it requires regulatory coherence. Fragmentation and overly complex reporting obligations risks diverting resources away from real impact particularly for SMEs. Talking about SMEs, let me highlight my last point. SMEs must be fully part of the ESG transition. One of the most important and sometimes overlooked dimensions of the ESG agenda is the role of SMEs. As you all know, SMEs are critical actors in climate transition and social inclusion, representing the majority of our companies in most of the European economies. They are deeply embedded in local communities and the global value chain. Yet, they often face structural constraints, limited financial resources, skill gaps, or reduced access to technical expertise. If ESG requirements become overly complex or misaligned with business realities, SMEs risks being excluded from markets or even from innovation opportunities. This is where practical tools and peer learning platforms, examples of work development of the OECD in collaboration with business at OECD, becomes essential. Let me conclude in a few words. ESG only will succeed if it moves beyond statements of intent and becomes embedded in the way organizations create value and operate day to day. Bridging the gap between ambition and impact requires credible regulatory coherence and inclusive approaches that fully integrate SMEs into this transition. On behalf of Business at OECD, I would like to reaffirm our strong commitment to working with ALES, with policymakers, and with the business community to help ensure that ESG delivers credible impact. Thank you very much once again for this opportunity, and I wish you a productive and an inspiring conference ahead.
Okay. So, Joyline, up to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone. It's a great honor to meet all of you here. Good afternoon and good evening from my side. Today, I actually pleased to speak over on the topic that is connecting two powerful business disciplines, which is Lean and ESG. For many years, we know that Lean has helped organizations improve productivity, reduce waste, enhance quality, and of course, building more operational excellence. Now, at the same time, currently ESG has become one of the most important business languages today, shaping not only how companies manage environmental responsibility or social impact, governance, risk, or stakeholders' trust. It also wanted to focus on the long-term value creation. But very often, these two areas are still very treated in a separate way. So Lean is seen as an operational improvement topic, and then where for ESG is seen as a sustainability, compliance, and reporting topic. Now, today I would like to challenge this separation because in the real world business, credible ESG impact does not happen only in the boardroom. Okay, it actually happens outside when you actually put them into the daily operation. Now, how did it happen? It happens during when you are doing some procurement decision, production planning, your energy use, and it also happens that you are deciding how many people you are training, how many ways you reduce, how the suppliers being selected, and of course how your risk is being managed. And these require how leadership make decision every day. So my key message today is ESG becomes credible only when it leaves the boardroom and enters into the operating rhythm of the businesses. And this is what exactly ESG should be working together and how Lean become more powerful. Now, why ESG alone is not enough? In the past few years, we talk about ESG has been moving very quickly. Right after the pandemic, it becomes something boost up and everybody just keep on going in it. Boards talk about it, investors talk about it, customer requesting all the sustainability information, and especially it comes to banks, which is they are the linking the finance and the sustainability performer. So it forced the regulator to actually raising more and more expectation. Now, supply chain start to ask the supplier that how to disclose their emission, their labor practices, their governance structures, so on, and about their risk management practice as well. Now, this is a positive development, don't get me wrong, but there is a problem here. Many organizations, they still approach ESG mainly in the reporting angle. So they ask, what type of framework should we use? What type of indicators should we disclose? What we should be writing in the sustainability reporting? And the most common will be, how do we respond customer ESG questionnaire? Now, these are all important questions, but they are not enough. Because ESG is not just about what we disclose, it's about what we do. It's about how your business operates, how you make decisions, how resources being used, how people being attracted or protected to be in your company, how the risks are being identified. And the most important is when we see how the value created without give in the unnecessary harm. Now, in my work with with a lot of companies, I often see this gap. A company may have sustainability statement, but the people on the ground do not know how ESG connects to their daily work. A company may have a very nice ESG policy, but procurement still choose suppliers only based on the pricing. Now, company may have also carbon reduction target, but machines are still running unnecessary during the ideal hours. When we talk about so much about how company treating employee well-being, but safety observation or maybe some near-miss reporting, they are not properly being tracked. So all this information has caused the supplier data incomplete and inconsistent. So the issue here is not always lack of the intention. Many companies here, they have very good intention, but the real issue over here is not being translated into operation. All the policy is not translated into the process, target is not translated into the ownership, and you talk about report is not supported by strong evidence. And this is why when we talk about ESG alone, it's not enough. It remains the only strategy and reporting level. So to become more credible, ESG needs an operating system, and Lean offers exactly that kind of discipline. Now, when we talk Lean and ESG, when they appear, a lot of people look into a different words, because Lean talk about the language of efficiency, flow, productivity, standardization, problem solving, and also we talk about continuous improvement. Then when it comes to ESG, very much the language is talk about environmental responsibility, social responsibility, governance, risk, stakeholder trust. But if we look deeper, they are actually strongly connected. So when Lean asks, where is the waste? In fact, it's the same question as ESG asks, where are the impacts? Now, second type of question that we usually get will be, when Lean asks, how do we create value for customer? ESG will ask, how do we create credible value for stakeholders? In fact, both are actually same question. So you can see that Lean helps ESG become more practical, and ESG will help Lean become more purposeful. Now, let us look into the traditional Lean waste. Overproduction creates unnecessary of energy waste, material waste, storage costs, emission. Now, waiting time reduces the productivity and may increase the machine idle time. Now, electricity overuse, your overtime, employee frustration, all these unnecessary things will actually create more and more excess of wastage, especially when it comes to over-processing on measuring the labor, materials, packaging, energy, and also how it tie up with your capital, the increase of the warehouse space, coolings, lighting needs, and also they may create more unnecessary motion or productivity. These kind of things, when we come in, we improve Lean performance. So we often improving ESG performance actually at the same time. But many companies miss this connection. They always think that for Lean project, when we measure, it's about cost saving. They don't translate the whole cost saving and whatever you have done into the ESG impact. They may know that they have reduced scrap, but they did not calculate the material waste avoided. Another thing is they know that they improved the layout, but they did not connect it into the worker safety and productivity. So this is a missed opportunity, because in the future, ESG not only about companies' claim, the future is about company can prove, and Lean give companies one of the strongest way to prove improvement. So what Leans do? Leans create discipline, visibility, problem solving structures, measure before and after improvement that is very visible. And also they create the ownership and evidence for the department. This is why Lean and ESG synergy is so important. When it comes to Lean, it will allow organizations to move from the whole ESG intention into execution. And from execution, we'll move to evidence. And the evidence will turn into the credible impact. Yep. So in some real life operational example, I just want to share a little bit practical one. Imagine if a manufacturing company, they wants to improve ESG performance. At the beginning, the management may say that, okay, we want to reduce our carbon emission. That sounds very good. But when go into operation, we may discover something more specific. Machines are running even when the production is not active. Or compressed air leakage. These are really very common, but it's not tracked. Production planning causes frequency of changeover. We have rejected products that are not properly analyzed, especially raw materials waste due to the defects. And with all these unpredicted external issue where we are facing on now, this will also create more and more maintenance reactiveness instead of prevention. Now, ESG data is collected manually that last minute before the reporting. So in this situation, carbon, the issue is not only a sustainable issue anymore. It's the waste issue, it's the safety issue, it's the data issue. Because all these operational excellence issues is actually Lean and ESG approach with us. So what would it ask? It asks, where is your energy waste? Where is your material waste? Where is your process variation? Where is your safety risk? And so on. So when we connect the Lean tools to the ESG outcome, so you have a tools, you have an outcome, then you can actually have different things. For example, the volume stream map can actually show where emission go, what's the waiting time, where's the defects, and what the waste happened during the process. And you can turn this into a ESG data and show the impact. Another type is like the Kaizen project that can reduce energy use, water use, waste, unsafe practices, and inefficient work flow. So all this can show that ESG is becoming real. It's not through your slogans or through any green poster or any beautified reporting languages, but through operating discipline. And when ESG is supported by this operating discipline, it becomes more easier to actually measure, easier to improve, and easier to verify. The most important thing is this is credible impact because you have the proof. Now, I actually have a 5E Lean ESG impact model by myself that I've been working with people. So I want to introduce this expose, eliminate, embedded, evidence, and elevate. So the first step when we expose, we actually find what is the hidden issue in the day-to-day operation. And this hidden issue, if you start to see it, you can actually produce more credible report that you can properly trace. And Lean help us to expose this type of information that will create ESG to see what is the impact. So together, they actually review all the real costs of the process, whether it's a good process or it's a poor process. So the question is no longer only like how much money we are losing. The question will become that how much carbon, material, time, trust, safety, future competitiveness are we losing? Not just only the costing. So this is the first mindset shift. So ESG starts with making the invisible visible. Now, second, when we talk about eliminate, Lean teaches us that eliminate what does not create value, while ESG teaches us to reduce negative impact. When we eliminate waste, we can often reduce costs, and all this sustainability burden will be reduced at the same time. So you have less energy waste, less material waste, less water loss, and also less accidental risk. Then this is where ESG should not only be positioned as just a cost. If it be done correctly, ESG can be more productivity strategy. So it becomes your risk reduction strategy, your competitiveness strategy, your business transformation strategy. So reducing defect is not only quality improvement. It also reduce your material waste, your energy use, your customer complaint, your disposal cost, and this is also improving trust. And this is a showcase that how Lean ESG synergy together will help you not increase only your productivity but also your ROI. When it comes to embedded, the third part, this is where a lot of companies struggle. They run a lot of campaign, conduct a lot of training, prepare a lot of report, or create more and more policy. But after that, the daily operation remain the same. So to make all this ESG credible, it must be actually embedded into your business system, and it must be embedded in the first part is the procurement criteria. What is your supplier evaluation? What is the production planning? What is your maintenance schedule? Any employer training, any internal audit, management review, and so on. And so when it comes to board reporting, it's just not a number, but it's a real embedded into become a transformation. Now, for example, if a company says that supplier responsibility is important, then your supplier responsibility must appear in your supplier selection. So if you think that your supplier is so important to make your goods value and long term, so you must have a supplier assessment, your review, how is the improvement plans. So when company you declare that safety is more important, then it must be appear in your daily briefing, your incident report, your near miss tracking, your correctiveness action, and what is your leadership review. So all this cannot depend only on one sustainability department. It must be part of how the company runs. And of course, when we talk about the fourth part is evidence. So we have exposed, we understand what we need to eliminate and what we need to embed it into our business. We must have evidence to show that we are doing it not only for storytelling. At the age of storytelling has been passed. Now it's talking about what is substantialness. Company can no longer just say that, oh, we care about sustainability. They must show that what was the baseline, what action was taken, what was their responsibility, what has changed, how they will measure. And of course, there are longer lists of that. So this is where Lean becomes so extremely powerful. Lean system naturally create all this evidence, before and after data, the process map, the root cause analysis, and so on. And these are not just operational documents. These are all ESG credible assets. Because without evidence, ESG becomes just a claim. So with evidence, ESG becomes credible impact. Now, lastly, since we have done all the evidence, we need to elevate. We need to move on to the next step. This is where you move from compliance to competitiveness, because it can improve your investor confidence, your customer trust, your supplier qualifications, of course, your employee engagement, and when we talk about what is your financial readiness and your business resilience, your market positioning, so many things that you can do. Then many companies always ask one question: where is the ROI and what is the ROI for ESG? My answer is always like, the ROI for ESG become very clearer when you connecting them into the operation improvement, because ESG not only sit in the report, the value is very limited if it's only appear in the report. But when you improve productivity, you strengthen governance, safety, we talk about trust towards your products, then ESG become more business value. Now, this is the full Lean ESG journey, which I have been promoting. And I think that expose the real impact, eliminate what does not create value, embedded ESG into the operations, and use the evidence from the Lean to do improvement and bring your business become competitive. So this is how we move from strategy to actually credible impact. Now, we must remember one thing that is very important. Since that we have talked about Lean and ESG synergy, these are all only technical discipline. They are also human discipline. And Lean is not only about tools and ESG not about indicators. Both require culture. Company can have best ESG strategy, but if people on the ground do not understand it, then nothing change. If we talk about we have best Lean tools, then if people are afraid to speak up, improvement will not happen as well. So respect for people in the heart of Lean, and also stakeholder responsibility at the heart of ESG. So the real synergy is not only the system and the tools that we share, but it's also we need the leaders to ask, what is our ESG score? Do our people understand the impact in their work by engaging this ESG into their daily life? Is our managers solving the problem or actually hiding them? So do our workers actually feel safe to report some issue? Now, do our suppliers grow together with us or suffer under pressure? Is our operational actually reflect the value we want to publish? So because credibility not only creates sustainability department alone, it's created thousands of small decisions that you make every day. Every purchase, every production, every maintenance, every safety, and also every leadership decision. So when we talk about Lean and ESG synergy, it's very powerful. It's not just about the tools, but also the daily behavior and the organization. Now, my message for the businesses, A lot of time, especially small medium association, enterprise, they always have this supply chain matter, and ESG can be very overwhelming for them. They may think that this is only for large corporations, expensive, or it's just too hard to understand how it started for the compliance. But I always tell company one thing: you do not start it just because you try to look sustainable. You start it because you want a better operation, you want to be better governance, and you also want to be better prepared by this wave. And start with what you can control. What is your energy use? You can control. What is your safety practices, your supplier records, your employee training, your customer complaints? These are all things that you can control. And because credibility ESG, it does not build in overnight. It built through your continuous improvement, small improvement, measure improvement, repeated improvement, verified improvement, and the most important thing is to have the spirit and the culture. So that is what the spirit of the synergy belongs together. And Lean makes ESG so practical. ESG make Lean more meaningful. Now together they can help companies to become more efficient, more responsible, more resilient, and most important, more trusted. Now, as I close, I would like to leave everyone with 3 thoughts. So the first one, ESG without operation is just expiration. You can say anything you want, especially nowadays you have AI, you can record it everywhere, but it's just expiration, okay? Second, Lean without sustainability may improve your efficiency, but they will miss the bigger responsibility of the business. Now, third thing, when Lean and ESG work together, company just does not just reduce waste, they create credible impact. For the next generation that we are going to see, especially now Gen Z and so on, these leaders are not those who only understand framework. They want to look into how translating framework into the business transformation, because they themselves also request a lot of flexibility. So for those who can connect the boardroom strategy and the shop floor reality, who can prove impact with evidence, not just intention, and this is all the future I believe in. So the future where operational excellence is not separated from responsibility. ESG is not just a reporting burden, it's a business transformation language. So because of this, I think that all of us, when we look into it, sustainability is not separated from productivity. Now, end of the day, credible impact is not what company says after work is done. Credible impact is designed into the way the work is done. Thank you very much. Back to you, Chair.
So, hi everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Alice and Mr. Sergio and the whole organization team for inviting me to this valuable conference. It's a great pleasure for me to be here today as a keynote speaker and to share how we at Kale Group think about sustainability not only as a responsibility, but also as a strategic value creation agenda. My name is Yiğit Taşdivar, G in silent. My background is economics. I studied at University of Rome, Sapienza. I started my career as a management consultant. I focused on corporate strategy, performance management, supply chain, and process management in various different sectors like industrials, retail, and telecommunication. And since 2018, I work at Kale Group of companies at the holding company in headquarters, and I work as a sustainability manager for 4 years. My role sits at the intersection of sustainability, corporate strategy, portfolio management, ESG ratings, climate-related risks, and opportunities, and long-term value creation. Today, I would like to talk about a subject that is becoming increasingly important for companies, investors, and boards, how sustainability can create measurable impact. Before moving into the corporate and financial side of the discussion, I would like to explain why I wanted to open my presentation with a reference to Pablo Neruda. Neruda's poetry often speaks about transformation, resilience, and renewal, and the possibility of change even in difficult times. I think for sustainability, it's a time like that. It's very close to the spirit of sustainability. because sustainability is not only about reducing emissions, reporting ESG data, or complying with regulations. It's also about imagining a better future, and then building the strategic, financial, operational, and cultural capabilities to make that future possible. In business life, we often talk with numbers. EBITDA, return on investment capital, shareholder return, net debt, EBITDA ratio, margins, ratings, and investment costs that are essential. But the transformation also requires a story. It requires meaning. It requires a reason why people, organizations, and leadership teams should act today for an outcome that may materialize tomorrow. That is why I believe Neruda is a meaningful starting point. He reminds me that renewable is possible, and sustainability at its core, it's about transformation, renewing business models, industrial systems, a relationship with third parties, and the way companies define value creation. So let me start by briefly introducing Kale Group of companies. Kale Group is one of the leading industrial groups in Turkey. We operate mainly in building materials, construction, chemicals, aerospace, and defense industries. The group was established in 1957 by founding father, Mr. İbrahim Bodur. Now the second generation, his daughter, Mrs. Zeynep Bodur Okyay, runs the company as CEO and the chairwoman. So we have a long industrial heritage, but at the same time, we are operating in sectors that are being reshaped by global trends such as decarbonization, advanced manufacturing, AI, defense technologies, digitalizations, and new materials. This portfolio structure gives us both risks, opportunities, and responsibilities. On the one hand, we are in sectors that are critical for economic development, infrastructure, housing, technology, and national competitiveness. On the other hand, we are also exposed to very different sustainability dynamics. Building materials, for example, face emissions, energy consumption, water consumption, circularity, and carbon regulation issues. Construction chemicals face product innovation, sustainable materials, and customer expectations. Aerospace and defense, for example, face supply chain resilience, customer compliance, export regulations, and advanced manufacturing standards. Therefore, when we talk about sustainability, we are not talking about one stardom agenda. We are talking about a portfolio-wide transformation that must be adapted to each company's portfolio role, sector, maturity level, and strategic position. I will explain this in the next slides. So, I'm a member of corporate strategy team at the holding company, and the strategy functions generally have always two core objectives. The first one is the increase shareholder returns, and the second one is the improved profitability. These may sound like classic corporate strategy objectives, and they are. But the important point is this: if sustainability wants to be relevant at the board level, and it must be connected to these objectives. For many years, for example, sustainability was perceived as a compliance topic, or a communication topic, or a corporate social responsibility. These dimensions still exist, of course, but today, sustainability is increasingly becoming a strategic management issue, because climate risks can affect margins, carbon pricing can affect cost structures, ESG ratings can affect investor visibility. So if our strategy function focuses on shareholder returns and profitability, then sustainability must be linked and translated into these into the language of strategy and finance. This is one of the central messages of my presentation today. Sustainability becomes powerful when it is integrated into the core value creation and portfolio management of the company. So at Kale Group, we continuously use a six-phased approach to assess and manage our portfolio. Our portfolio cannot be evaluated only by today's financial performance. A company may be profitable today, but highly exposed to the future regulation, especially during these times. Another company may have strong growth potential, but may require significant investment. Or another one way have strong ESG potential and therefore better long-term investor attractiveness. So we need a holistic perspective. The sustainability lens is one of these lenses, but it's not isolated from the others. Sustainability is directly linked to regulation because climate and environmental regulations are accelerating. It's linked to financial performance because emissions, water consumption, and waste can create cost pressure and cost advantage. It's linked to value and growth because sustainable products and new business models can create new revenue streams. It's linked to geography because export markets increasingly introduce sustainability-related requirements such as CBAM in Europe, carbon border adjustment mechanism, supply chain due diligence, and product carbon expectations. This is why we define at Kale Group our target portfolio as future-oriented, resilient, and value-creating. In our portfolio management approach, we assign clear strategic roles to our portfolio companies. The matrix you see on the presentation here is based on two dimensions, performance and potential. Performance tells us a company is doing right now, today. Potential tells us what kind of future value the company can create. This distinction is very important. This relation is very important because not all companies should be managed with the same expectations, the same KPIs, or the same investment logic. For example, a high performance, high potential company may require growth, investment, and leadership ambition. A company with strong potential but lower current performance may require transformation. So sustainability roles must be aligned with portfolio roles. This is the key principle in our approach. Sustainability strategy should not be generic. It should be portfolio specific, sector specific, and role specific. For example, you see on our companies here, for example, Kale Kim's role is to be a leader. This means sustainability can be used more actively as a market positioning and differentiation tool. Another example, Kale Ceramic in building materials is to meet legal requirements. This reflects the regulatory intensity of the building material sector, especially around emissions, carbon pricing, product standards, and climate reporting. On the other hand, Kale Pratt & Whitney, the role is to meet customer demand. In aerospace, customer requirements and supply chain expectations are very strong. Therefore, we need to know where leadership is required, where compliance is the priority, where customer expectations are the main driver, and where resilience is the main objective. Because sustainable transformation requires time, budget, management attention, data systems, and cross-functional collaborations. So now, let me move from our internal portfolio logic to the global capital market perspective, because corporate strategy is triggered from the global trends too. If you want to understand global trends, we need to track where capital is going. This is why I included this Morgan Stanley analysis on sustainable fund performance. The key question is, can sustainability climb back up the CEO agenda? We all experienced Trump administration. In recent years, sustainability has faced a more complex environment. We have seen geopolitical tensions, high inflation, rising interest rates, energy security concerns, and some markets' political pushback against ESG. At the same time, sustainable funds have continued to represent a significant investment universe. On the first graphic you see, according to Morgan Stanley's analysis, sustainable fund assets reached record levels, but the market also experienced outflows. The analysis also shows that around 70% on the second graphic, 70% of global sustainable funds invest globally or in Europe. This matters because regional composition can significantly affect performance. The important insight here is that short-term fund flows can be volatile. They can be affected by macroeconomic cycles, regional market performances, interest rates, energy prices, and investor sentiment. However, the long-term direction is still clear. Investors continue to need comparable, reliable, and decision-useful sustainable information. For companies, this means one thing, even if ESG is not always at the top of the media agenda, the capital market infrastructure around ESG continues to develop. Ratings, indices, sustainable funds, stewardship expectations, climate disclosures, and regulatory frameworks are all pushing companies toward greater transparency and better performance. So the question for companies is not whether sustainability is fashionable this year. The question is whether the company will remain visible, credible, and investable in a market where sustainability information increasing the capital allocation. Today, sustainability activities are being shaped by several major global trends. In this slide, I summarized 9 trends that we believe will influence sustainability strategies in the coming period. However, among these 9 trends, 3 of them stands out as especially critical. The first one is the geopolitical development and policies, green energy transition, and AI in sustainability. Geopolitical developments and national policies, sustainability is now no longer driven only by voluntary corporate commitments. It's increasingly shaped by national industrial policies, trade regulations, etc. For example, Turkey is the first country that published mandatory reporting TSRS, Turkish Sustainability Reporting Standards, as a mandatory tool. Regulations such as CBAM, national emission trading systems, green industrial policies, and supply chain due diligence requirements are turning sustainability into a strategic business issue. For example, the second major trend is artificial intelligence. AI has 2 different implications for sustainability. We see on one hand, it creates opportunities, better data management, more accurate emission tracking, predictive maintenance, energy optimizations. But on the other hand, AI also creates new sustainable challenges, especially due to its increasing electricity demand, data center expansion, and related pressure on energy infrastructure. So back to the group, we focus on creating additional value and remaining on investors' radar by integrating sustainability activities into our 2030 portfolio targets. This is a very important point because sustainability should not be a separate document that sits next to the corporate strategy. It should be embedded into the portfolio targets. When sustainability is disconnected from strategy, it becomes just a operational reporting exercise. But when sustainability is connected to the portfolio management, it becomes a value creation tool. So our approach is to ask how can sustainability support profitability? How can it reduce risks, improve investor perception? How can it support access to sustainable finance? How can it strengthen competitive positioning or contribute to long-term portfolio resilience? By asking these questions, we move sustainability from the nice to have to a category to the strategically necessary category. This is also how sustainability becomes relevant for boards and executive committees. So for all these reasons, in order to track incremental value creation from ESG, we defined ESG rating score as our anchor metric. Our target is for our portfolio companies to perform above sector averages. Of course, we know that ESG ratings are not perfect. Different rating agencies use different methodologies. Scores may vary. Sometimes that the company can receive different results from different platforms. But despite these limitations, ESG ratings are important because they create a bridge between corporate sustainability performance and the capital market visibility. Investors use ESG data and ratings to screen companies. Indices use them to determine eligibility. Sustainable funds use them to construct portfolios. So ESG ratings are not the final objective, but they are a practical and visible, let's say, proxy. For us, the logic is not improve the score for the sake of the score. For us, the logic is use ESG scores as a management tool to identify gaps, prioritize actions, strengthen governance, improve data quality, and increase external visibility. So we anticipate that sustainability can generate additional value creation through three main drivers. The first driver is direct impact on profitability through competitive advantage. This includes improving EBITDA performance and financial performance, managing ESG risk and opportunities, product differentiation through innovation, or cost reduction through operational improvement. The second driver is creating impact by staying on investor radars. Here, ESG rating scores, environmental impact projects, social impact programs, supplier ESG performance management are the key projects for us. The third driver is the access to sustainable finance. This includes legal reports such as GRI, TSRS, ESG roadmaps, because the financial impact here may come through lower borrowing costs, lower interest rates, better bank relationships, and stronger credibility in loan negotiations. So when we say sustainable creates value, we are not making an abstract claim. We are saying that sustainable can affect EBITDA, multiples, investor visibility, risk perception, and cost of borrowing. That is the financial logic behind our strategy, our sustainable strategy. So this slide shows actually how we integrate portfolio targets with sustainable strategy using ESG scores as an anchor metric. Alongside these, we position ESG rating scores above sector average, like I said. Then we connect this to our 2030 group targets. We have 4 pillars across 4 main impact areas: cultural transformation, energy and resource management, sustainable business model, and social impact. This is important because sustainability transformation is not only environmental, it's also about people's skills, leadership, and organizational capacity. These targets connect sustainability to market access, supply chain management, and revenue generation. The main point is this: ESG score is the anchor, but it's not the whole story. Behind the scores, we need real targets, real projects, real data, and real governance. For example, I will show you one of our climate risk scenario analysis. This slide, the numbers represent the potential financial exposure under different scenarios, but I close it due to our data security policy. So we see that the financial effect increases over time. This is the Turkish emission trading system scenario. So you can see worst, average, and best scenarios due to our investments plans. This is a very typical for carbon pricing mechanism. In the early years, for example, until 2030, the impact may seem manageable. But as free allocation declines, carbon prices increase, or regulatory scope expands, the financial pressure can become much more material.
Yiğit, you got more or less 1 minute and a half.
Okay, I will finish. So last slide. As a result of this integrated approach, we closed 2025 with important achievements. We obtained our scores across 4 different ESG platforms for 3 group companies. So to conclude, I will like to leave you with 3 key messages. First, sustainability should be integrated into corporate strategy and portfolio management. It should not remain as a separate reporting exercise. Second, ESG ratings can be useful, not because they are perfect, but because they connect internal performance with external visibility. And the last one is the sustainability creates value through multiple channels: profitability, valuation, investor visibility, access to finance, or risk management. At Kale Group, our ambition is to make sustainability part of how we create values, manage our portfolio, and prepare our companies for the future. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. I hope you see my presentation right now.
Yes.
Good, very good. Thank you for having me. I'm Luca Burdese. I'm a long-time expert on lean manufacturing, but lately on sustainability and in general, HSE, in general sustainability. This is the index of my presentation, and my thesis is the same of everyone. So sustainability should move from compliance to ESG to competitiveness, to company competitiveness. And this is the summary of my presentation. You will find the slides of my presentation in my LinkedIn that is over there. You have the QR code of my contacts, and you can download the presentation from tomorrow. Also, you can download a larger presentation, like a white paper, which is summarized here today for you with this PowerPoint. Okay, so why sustainability is shifting from compliance to value, to generate value? Well, first of all, let me say that compliance will remain necessary for everyone for many reasons. And so the audits, and so the policies and the certifications. And this will preserve the possibility to operate in markets and participate to businesses. And that's for sure. But the value of ESG will become the filter, the real filter. So all the sustainability initiatives, they will have to show some value generation, like cost reduction, like lean, and this is the parallel that we are speaking about today. Revenue protection, risk reduction, and in long terms, resilience. And at the end, value for the brands. And we'll speak about that. So the operating model is really the answer. ESG should be embedded in our strategy, in our budget discourse, in our CapEx issues, in our sourcing, in all our operations. And they should dictate the management cadence. So this is my thesis. The compliance will keep the business allowed to operate, but this new sustainability, and we'll discuss about the term of sustainability later on, this model will improve will have to improve and demonstrate to be able to improve the economics of our businesses. But what are the two models? Let's call it compliance ESG, like the old or traditional model, even if traditional doesn't make a lot of sense in a subject that is probably 10 years old. So, but let's call it the old model, where the reporting was the main issue. Okay, the primary output was the sustainability report. And we all remember, like 10 years ago, 7 years ago, when we first made the sustainability report for everyone, we started from what are they asking? What are they asking? What should be present in this declaration, in this manual, in this reporting? And we started from there. And this is, of course, as always, is not the correct way to do things. In this old model, the specialist function is often a silos. Okay, there's the sustainability manager that does his own job or her own job, and it's kind of isolated from the rest of the company. They do their own stuff and they do the reporting. And this happened to everybody, I think, years ago. Now some companies are more mature, but I'm speaking about the old model. So the metrics were the narrative. And there was a little bit of risk reduction in the discourse, a little bit. Now, what I'm arguing that there must be a new model, and the new model should be based on business decision. And this will be the primary output. It should be cross-functional, so across all the functions. So in theory, there's no need to have a sustainability function. It's more or less like Lean. In Toyota, there's no Lean manager. They don't need it. Why? Because everybody speaks Lean. Okay, so this is my thesis. CFOs should be highly involved in sustainability. Sometimes they are not. They should be the primary leaders in sustainability because they have to demonstrate the value in the P&L. Of course, the KPI discipline is tied to the cost, to the revenue, and to the risk management. At the end of the game, this is a matter of value protection and value creation. So it's really an evolution, not just a replacement of different models. Let's make a step back. I don't know if you have seen this chart bouncing around the internet lately, but it's very popular on LinkedIn and on other social media. This is like to express the backlash of sustainability in recent years. So after a first period, on the horizontal axis, we have the stages of maturity of sustainability. It's qualitative, it's not quantitatively. So you might recognize yourself in this chart in different stages. Different companies are at different stages, but generally speaking, we had in recent times, we had a backlash, meaning that sustainability was very popular. Everybody was in love of sustainability. Everybody started their own projects. They made investments, but after a while, there was like what I call the Trump effect. Not really related only to the US president, but generally speaking, there was a huge backlash. And sustainability, I'm arguing that it's becoming toxic as a word. we should change the word. We should not use sustainability anymore, because if you ask to a regular person, not like us that are professional in sustainability, but if you ask to a regular person, they immediately think about I don't know, Greta Thunberg or crazy stuff. Or if you ask to people in the companies what is sustainability, they immediately think about ESG reporting, and that's not good. This is the backlash. Now I think we are in a phase where we can really build the new sustainability. We can really build a sustainability that is embedded in our companies, and it's embedded in the value creation. So the backlash is the signal. I'm not speaking about all the noise that is around, again, the Trump administration, but even Europe. I'm not speaking about, this is noise. Let's focus on the signal. The signal is, it's clear in any case. Sustainability must behave like every other strategic asset, strategic investment. It should be material. It should be measurable. There must be accountability inside our companies, and should be very much linked mathematically, I would say, to value. So let's not tell to our leaders that they have to do sustainability because it's good. It's a good thing. It's an ethical thing. Because that was the mistake at the beginning. Speaking about sustainability just as an ethical thing to do, good for the environment. This is not sustainability. Not necessarily everything about sustainability. Ask them, our leaders, to fund the initiatives because they protect the margin, because they secure our markets. They increase our brand value. This is key. In this chart, I summarize the reason why we had this backlash. Okay, and I mentioned number 6, the so-called Trump effect, but it's generally speaking, it happened also in Europe. You remember the new, and you have also number 1, the new directive, the European directive. They cut a little bit of duties in ESG reporting, and that's good. That's perfectly good. But then people started thinking about, they were kidding. Okay, they have asked us to do pages and pages, and now they said that forget about it. You need to do much less. So also the ISO rules, they have changed 1 month ago. The new ISO 14000 came out, and it's more linked to sustainability, to environmental, but also very much important in the ISO is that all the ISO now, they are converging to a common model. And this model should embed also ESG. So but this is a subject of another discussion. But in generally speaking, I think that the ISO models and ESG should be just one operative governance system. But these trends, these forces are accelerating this backlash in the last years. And they are leading us towards a more measurable and performance-oriented and risk management-oriented sustainability. Less symbolic, less reporting, more evidence, more linked to cash flows, to P&L, to cost of capital, and at the end of the game, to brand value. And this is really my thesis. Sustainability and brand value should be linked almost mathematically. And these are the 6 steps. So from step 1 and step 2, and maybe even step 3, a lot of companies, majority of the companies already have. It means a list of projects that are energy efficiency driven, water consumption improvements, and so on. Link these projects to KPIs. Then link these KPIs to the financial statement and to the risk management area. Okay? Done that, you have to move to cash flow and to the effect on cost of capital. After that, it's going to be, all these passages are extremely easy for a controller. This is not rocket science. If you lead in the right way your controller, they will be able to make this logical link. Not just logical, even almost mathematical. Then you link your balance sheet, your cash flow with the value of your company, the value creation and a better value of your company. And at the end of the game, you will be able to connect this with the brand value, which is even more important from the owner of your company, from the shareholders, even the stakeholders. And this will really link your sustainability project with brand value. And this is going to be a bomb. Let's make another provocation. You remember in a couple of years ago, Standard & Poor's gave Tesla an extremely low ESG score. They gave them 22 over 100 to Tesla. And the justification, the reason why, was that Tesla did not fill out the questionnaire, they did not fill out the ESG rules. This was extremely bad. This is a very bad message from ESG and from sustainability. You are telling that Tesla is not sustainable. It's less sustainable company than, for example, a tobacco company that, as far as I know, kills people with their product, to another company that they, for example, Amazon, that they move things around the world. And they are saying that Tesla, which is solving a huge problem for environment, for mobility, is less sustainable just because they don't comply with your ESG reporting. This was a very bad message, and cannot happen. So also because Tesla is the most profitable company in the world, last time I checked. So this link, which I call the bridge from sustainability to brand value, is extremely important. This should be the core of ESG. Link the sustainable actions to brand value. And the controllers should be the professionals who validate each and every passage of this bridge. Evidence, KPI, assumption, decision, and outcome and value in the future. This is an example of the sustainability teams and how they are connected to financials, cost of goods, OPEX, CAPEX, and so on, how they can be measured with KPIs, and how the KPIs affect the value, which level of value they affect. They could affect the cost, they could affect the risk of the company, the margin, the resilience, the cost of capital, even the trust of the public opinion. Everything is linked to making your brand more valuable. The common principle will be, and you will find the details in my presentation, but if you are interested. But the principle will be that this materiality, the famous double materiality, should be translated into project, controls, owners, accountability, targets, and a logic of P&L, logic of budget. You see on the left, there's this bridge. There are already companies that do this. There are companies, at least three. I list here 3 companies that are measuring already your brand value in terms of what you do in sustainability and how you affect with your project really the sustainability of your company and of your brand. The first one is Brand Z. Then we have Interbrand, and brand finance. So these are the three major companies where you can refer. They have their own differences. They measure in a different way those passages between the 6 steps of the bridge, but the logic is really the same. I list here also some slides about the model, the operative model. I think there's no time to go into details and not the point of this presentation, but you can find them in my longer white paper. The common logic is that we have to start from the double materiality. We have to translate these issues or risks into KPIs and operational drivers. Then you have to assign owners to this in your company. And the check of the progression should be embedded in your regular meetings and the cadence of your meetings as any financial issue. So you have the quarterly review, the forecast, everything will be embedded in that. No differences, no silos, just common flow. And at the end, operational control. Okay, so the audits, the data trail, that's important as we know. So this is the operative system, and there will be also a governance of this system. This is what I suggest, of course, based on accountability of different functions, not the sustainability manager. Recently, the other week, I asked to a company what they were doing in sustainability, and they told me, oh yeah, we have a sustainability manager. Wrong answer. Sustainability manager per se doesn't mean that you're doing sustainability. Sustainability should be embedded in every function, okay? Starting from CFO, but also to operations and everyone. What else? Of course, AI will play a role in this for sure, but will play a role that will eliminate the burden of the reporting. It will be very, very easy to report data with AI. You can have already, if you have a sustainability manager, like I told you before, like a silo of sustainability, this could be completely replaced by an AI agent, which collects all the data and makes the report automatically, more efficiently and less expensive. So if you are a sustainability manager that operates like this, be careful of your job. You have to transform your job into a really value-adding role inside your company. I also built the roadmap to transform your company into this kind of new sustainability. And by the way, we should find a new term. If we don't like sustainability, which I think that now it's time to change it, we should ask to wise marketing people to find a new name, and not to couple it with the reporting issue, but with value adding. What else? Let's get to the end of my presentation. So really I have 3 messages. The first one is that sustainability should be treated as a financial materiality. Prioritization of the subjects, of the projects, based on cost, based on revenue generations, based on risk reduction, based on cost of capital, and at the end, brand value. And this is my main message. Secondly, is that reporting is the evidence. So it's a necessary evil. We need to do it. The scorecard, the KPIs, everything is needed, but it's not the objective. We started sustainability with this as an objective. And last is that the model will win if it's going to be an operating discipline. So if really ESG will be embedded into our cadence of meetings, into our workflows, into budgeting phase, into CapEx, into product design, and so on. And this will be very, very critical in the next future to succeed and to create this new sustainability. So going back and closing the circle, I think we are all demonstrating in different ways today that competitiveness and profitability against compliance is not a choice between doing business in the old way and sustainability. It's not. It's the evolution of sustainability into a new way of managing the business. Okay, and the two things should be with less slogans, fewer disconnections between the two, no silos, stronger cooperation, and a direct bridge from the projects to the brand value. So my final thesis will be that ESG will become sustainable when it will sustain the performances of the company. So thank you very much. This is again the link of my contacts, and with later today or tomorrow morning, I will upload also this presentation, PowerPoint, and as I said, also a larger white paper. But also, I'm working with the Michigan University, with their financial department, in order to, and that's why I'm working in WaterRising. We are working on specifically on water. We are trying to link the value and the stewardship of water in a company with the portion of brand that this is affecting. So how much of your brand value is due to water? And for example, we have already done some pilots. For example, you see the Lamborghini case. So our methodology that we are developing again with the Michigan University is going to be a way to evaluate how is the share of your value, of your brand value, linked to the care of water. And this will be important in the next years, especially because water, we have hotter and hotter summers and with water problems already. But in the next 2 or 3 years, the data centers will be kicked off everywhere. They are very much water intensive, water driven, and therefore the scarcity of water will affect everybody in the next future even more. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Yes, we do.
So it's not longer about doing less, it's about doing better. I maybe you are not seeing in the right way. I cannot see what you are seeing. Okay. It's easy, as Lucas was saying, how to transform it in a mathematical way of seeing in our own financial results, yes, in our budget, in our cash flow directly, yes. It must be embedded in the whole company, be part of the control system where we have to create our own standards, our own key performance indicators. We start to identify the materiality, the financial materiality, where we are, let's say, victims of what is happening above the company, and the impact materiality, how we impact the world, how we impact with our salaries, how we impact with the way of reducing the bad impact of our operations in the environmental perspective, and how we impact in terms of compliance in the competitive law, how we behave with our prices, how we behave in all the process, public tender process, and all those issues, yes? So how we make a proactive, integrated information and early warning and not be left like explanations, yes? And how we embed, how we take benefits of the green certifications, the trade and the transform. And something that, you know, I came from the risk area, is all about risk. Sustainability is also about risk, yes? So I think, and also by the fact that derives from an Italian definition verb, is just sustainability must be in the directors as a key topic of risk. When I create global governance policy, corporate policies from companies, specifically, I just already closed one blue launch. The first one has been done in America Latina for an electric ferry, and also have closed 4 blue green bonds from Sovitech, a renewable energy company developer from Germany. It's when I create the corporate governance, I always put sustainability inside. And there could not exist a corporative governance policy without taking care of sustainability, because sustainability must be their best friend, the best friend to create profit, as long as they don't put the company into a risk. Just on the contrary, they open doors. Yes, that is the point. Open doors, creating share value, the triple bottom line. Yes, not all, you know, we always take care about environment, and I love environment. I am finished and this is about water in engineering university. Then I would like to talk about with Lucas. In Uruguay, we have a lot of water, of course, due to the geography, but we were with a bit of a scarcity. I also work in hydrogen, so you can imagine, from my perspective, water, environment, it is key, but also have about human rights, have about even when you are in an energy project where I came from, indigenous, Maasai in the Kenya, there are different vulnerable communities, yes, and in Brazil too, and so on, that we really need to take care. And that is what closed the gap between international regulation from the World Bank or CAF or whatever, and our local regulations, our local laws, yes. And then we have the guidelines of the ISO and diverse regulations, yes. So it's like a journey, yes. Due to that, I agree that it should not be only one compliance manager in a company, because a company will never be 100 compliance with, 100 sustainability with. No, it's a journey where we are going step by step, yes, that we need to do it all together and be learning each day. But always the key is to embed it in the financial, in the economical follow-up of the company, in the results, yes? So be sure we will never reach the final destination, and that is great. But what we are going to reach? We are going to reach our sustainability report. We are going to reach that our GRI report. We are going to reach 100% of compliance with IFC performance standard of the World Bank. So we are going to reach to comply with the regulation that we decided to, that we have to, okay? But not being 100 sustainable company as well as a compliance company would be also quite complex, isn't it? Then we have a bit of how to create value, the porter. I think that creating share value of porter should be embedded in the ESG or sustainability policy. There we have some difference about sustainability, ESG. As a professor, I don't like to go inside of that, but all the students ask you, what is the difference between ESG and sustainability? And I love the way that you were just before transforming, shortly, Luca and Yiğit, how that's the history of that, yes. And I end myself in the creating share value, where I put the double materiality, financial and impact materiality all together, and that is where I'm planning to work with. Having previously, yes, a previous survey with all diverse stakeholders about the impact materiality, okay? So people said it's something that I have my own perspective, that sustainability is more long perspective and ESG is more bankable, just to comply with specific key performance indicators, and that is the way they say it. Where I will also include from an environmental perspective and with a focus with circular economy, the standard producer responsibility, which was key why Joyline was talking about that, how to reduce the impact, how to create more productive reduction and of that plastic in the sea, in the water. So I think it's a common strategy from Canada, USA, and European Union that now, specifically in Latin America, we are also applying in our own countries. So it is key to look after that and to add it into our own creating share value policy. As I was telling you before, I came from closing the gaps, yes, between local regulations in terms of sustainability to international regulation in 16 countries in order to have the comply with the banks from huge energy projects, where I also taking all include, of course, the health and safety and all the social environmental issues. Then you can see, I will leave that with all of you, the way to focus, yes, in the environmental social management system and the specification of each project. And then one step down, yes, seeing the local regulation, but that is just really few % of that. Working with the communities, it is key. We cannot say that the company is sustainable only because we are seeing the environmental topics, even though it's the core business of our company. Perhaps it's about creating products and labeling the supply chain, yes, human rights, who is working on that, and how we show after the due diligence, it is key. But we also need to add the stakeholders, the community surrounding, as long as with the workers. Yes, in IFC performance standards, internally will be performance standard number 2. Externally, when we see the community as a whole, will be performance standard number 4. Yes, some social practices that is about, we go one step ahead about that. The potential of the circular economy, the regulatory harmony, stakeholders collaboration, and the integration of the technology. Then the fair trade, which is key. And then here I left you more the practical, how to create the double materiality, how to detect the materiality topics. When I do that, and I go one step ahead, it's just starting from a perspective of compliance as a whole. That is, if I were to do the translation to Spanish, will be quite crazy, will be miento and cumplo, saying something that is not true and then I comply with, so let's say it in English. When we saw that is, of course, social, environmental, health and safety, but with a great focus in governance, how we take the decisions since the directory, the presidency, where we embed, of course, ESG issues, and we also create impacts from that perspective. Yes, I think that ESG should be part of compliance, while some others seeing it that should be in a different perspective. The point is that if you ask nowadays what sustainability is, the majority of people will say environment, isn't it? And I invite you to see it from another perspective. Sustainability is what moves all the company. The benefits must be sustainable. The financial balance must be sustainable. And of course, following that perspective, after EBIT and so on, the anti-corruption regulations must be by that way. Due to that, as a compliance officer, when I do a due diligence and I see red flags, it's not simple, close it, we are not going to work with that supplier. That will be really easy, isn't it? But probably I will not have my job the day after that. Yes, I try to be quite exaggerate just to call your attention. Yes, why? Because we also, the anti-corruption issues, we need to see it with the glasses of sustainability, saying that from my perspective, compliance is part of sustainability, isn't it? Just to see the way to take measures, probably if it isn't a red flag, bye-bye, it's impossible to work with that partner, it is clear. But if it is in the middle, how about teach them? How about ask them to comply with our regulations? How about doing at our own discretion some narrow surveys, yes, on site? How about teaching and going to them, helping them to comply with and to comply with our way of behaving in terms of corporate governance, compliance, and sustainability. That is also part of, yes, if for specific reasons we need to continue with that supplier, how about taking the advantage to take them from the hand and explain, look, we need to comply with all that. I can give you support. I can teach you your CEO, your employees, so on, that in order to continue with our relations, commercial relations, we need to comply with that. The new way of behaving must be that way. Yes? And then just do audits, random audits without need to advise previously, and try to give more look after that and more chance. We need, of course, to enhance our way of controlling that. If we other partners, we used to have a control between 2 months. Well, in that moment, perhaps 15 days, okay? But that is also being sustainable. How to put sustainability into compliance in the corporative decisions. Yes, how we are going to form the balance of the directory. That is also about sustainability. Yes, that person would like to continue working with us in the years to come. Yes, how it's going to be complemented. I am just talking about it to see sustainability, not only environmental, social, health, and safety, but also going one step ahead, yes, in the decision taken. Then here we have more theoretical, yes, consolidation matrix of double materiality, how we detect that. If someone wants me to go deeper on that, we can do something fast, we can do an exercise, the double materiality survey and so on. But I think that will be the first step, how to implement that. And once we have that, we should know which is material for the community where we are embedded in, which is material for our stakeholders, for our whole value supply chain. Yes, we can do surveys to them. We just can put it free, and then they with anonymous, of course, they answer it. And then for our own employees, insight, yes, that will go with the social insights area, internal client. And by doing that cross, yes, we will start to know which is material. And then we do a benchmark, why not, with our competitors in our country, or the one that are the leader of what we are doing, and which is material for them, which kind of regulation reports they follow. Yes, we will check in GRA, GRI, in SASB, and so on. And then by doing that, we start to have our own columns, and we start to know which is key material in accordance with specific regulations. Because if our company is a subsidiary and headquarters in Europe, of course, it's material, the regulations of the supply chain in the whole, the new ones, okay? From European Union, if it is a German company, we have to add it. If it is for French, we have a strong anti-corruption law there, and then UK Bribery Act, FCPA from the USA, but maybe our banks have connection with a bank in New York, our server, and Google also. So I will always put FCPA. Even we don't have direct connection with USA, but in a way we need to add it. Once I was in Wharton, Pennsylvania, the university giving a speech, and one lawyer said that the compliance officer that really knows each day which law complies is lying. What do you think? Because we have a strong, what we have? A spaghetti ball with all the regulations. Yes, in a globalized world, and even though when we have a whole supply chain.
Fernanda, you got 1 minute.
Okay, in the real world, it's almost impossible to know really to what we have to comply with, saying that what we should do, protect ourselves in terms of compliance, in terms of corporate governance, and in terms of sustainability, or ESG, if you want to divide it, it's environmental, social governance, taking care about health and safety. Why? Because you don't know at the end your business partners each day, even though you have the declaration of to which law you need to comply, blah, blah, and the owners, at the end could be doing certain kind of business, and they are merging with other companies, and the society change, and you end being obliged to comply with a law that you didn't know it. Yes, so it's like there are different kind of regulations, and we really need to comply with all of them. Due to that, I always prepare compliance and ESG to be extremely robust, so I don't have to be thinking the 16 countries to whom I should comply with. I just comply with the more demanding, and that is okay. But why? Because it is a decision as the director that is the way to work with. But it's different when their institution has their own money. There is no need to comply with that.